as the temperature rises, we're not going to get the frost, and so it means that whole sections and whole sections of the horticultural industry are not going to be viable in the Bay of Plenty anymore, and they're going to have to shift south. All the stone fruits that need frost to reset them, it's going to be over. They're going to have to move. So it's going to cause huge disruption to food production in our country. The types of droughts that are predicted are going to affect dairy farms. They say that for the next 5 to 10 years, dairy production will rise because hotter temperatures means increased growth. But then past that point, when the droughts and things really do start to hit, well then it's going to have a dramatic effect on dairy production. The fishing industry, which is it's a large industry in our country, due to the acidification of the oceans, we're going to see large collapses of marine species. I was reading an article the other day that the marine biologists down in Antarctica have been monitoring this thing called the sea butterfly, which is a little jellyfish creature that's shaped like a butterfly. And it's one of those core species that's at the bottom of the food web, you know, that lots of other creatures rely upon, and these things are starting to die because of acidification. So anything with an exoskeleton, like with a skeleton on the outside, like a koda, like a pipi, a kukutai, a shrimp, any of those creatures, because of the acidification, it's going to eat away at their shells, and they're going to be a lot more vulnerable to predation. And so the scientists are saying that what they really fear is a total collapse of marine species. They've looked back, the paleontologists have looked back in time and they've said, okay, has there been a climate event similar in the history of the world? And there has. And they can go back and they can look at that, and they say the last time there was an event which is on a par to what we're expecting, 80% of the marine species died. There was just a catastrophic collapse in the marine environment. And so, you know, all these things are mind-boggling. And the scary thing about it is that the window in which all of this is going to happen is very, very short. And because of the feedback loops, once it starts rolling, it's going to actually start reasonably slowly. We're going to see these things happening, but then it's going to pick up pace, and then it's going to get faster and faster. One of the other things that really concerned me was the climate scientists we talked to said our native species, our bush, is so slow that some of the oldest trees around, you know, thousands of years old, that they can't adapt in the short time frames that the climate's going to change. That 2 or 3 degrees is going to be the difference between life and death for our native flora and fauna. That they're not going to have enough time to adapt to the changing climates. So they're predicting that within time we will see all the indigenous flora and fauna in this country starting to collapse. And so these things are mind-boggling. And they're probably the most serious issue that's confronting us. I mean, I've always kind of thought, you know, that Māori issues were the most serious issues. But all of this has made me kind of step back and realise, well, all of that fades into nothing if our basic environment is lost. You know, you can have all the land rights that you want, but if it's a desert, you can't grow kai, and that if the species are dying, what's the point? And so, yes, I'm deeply concerned about this. You know, hence my involvement in this issue. And so, it became quickly evident to me, say 5 or 6 years ago, that there were going to be 3 key things that we're going to need. One of them is water security, the other one is food security, and the third thing is energy security. And I thought to myself, right, all we need to do is just go back up home. We need to build some dams, collect as much fresh water as possible. We need to plant gardens, and so that we've got our own food security. And if we get off the grid and have some alternative energy, we'll be sweet. Then I realised, hang on a minute, if we're the only people in the area with the lights on, when the power goes off, we're going to need some other kind of security. We're going to need barbed wire. We're going to need 50 caliber machine guns. Because these things are potentially not too far away. If the dams in the South Island dry up, if we have, like, say, 3 catastrophic droughts in a row, and the dams in the South Island dry up, the power in the North Island goes off. As simple as that. And we've come to that point a couple of times in the last 10 years, and you might be familiar with that story on television that you see the reporter standing there next to the measuring stick in the lake, you know, and the levels right down, and they're saying, you know, we've had a drought in the South Island and we're a bit worried, and unless we get rain in 2 weeks, we're going to have to start rationing parts of the North Island. Well, that's under the current conditions. If we, and not if, but when we start facing the droughts that are predicted under climate change, that's going to be reality. The lights are going to go out. Yeah, so we thought, okay, we just need to adapt. You know, we'll just adapt to these changes, and we'll go back up home, we'll get our water security, food security, energy security. But then we quickly realised that there is no security unless we're all secure.
Yeah. Sure.
And that all the adaptation and mitigation in the world isn't going to be enough to save us. That what we've got to do is we've just got to use our best endeavours and throw ourselves at actually slowing down climate change and preventing it. And so, you know, moving on from there, we said, okay, well, who's doing it? That begs the question, who's creating all this? And of course we are. We are ourselves, all of us. And we're creating it by driving around here in our motor cars, burning up fossil fuels. That's one of the major contributors. And in this country, it's also the agricultural industry through methane getting released from cows. They actually poop it out. And so those are them. That's how we're doing it here in this country. So you know, so it's going to require action on a whole lot of levels. But it's not enough for us just to stop driving our cars. It's not enough. We just can't change the light bulbs and everything's going to be right. It's got to be addressed on a macro international level, and that's the only solution, because we can do everything. We can do everything right in this country. We can recycle, reuse, repair. We can generate our own sustainable energy. We can change our light bulbs, and we can hitchhike and walk around instead of driving cars. It ain't going to make a dent on the world situation. So this has to be approached on a global level. Sure, it's still a good idea to do all of those things. I encourage people, yeah, just do all that stuff anyway, because it's a good idea. But if we're going to stop runaway climate change, it has to be addressed on an international level. We have to have an international strategy that's going to confront the fossil fuel industry, because they've got a lot of money. They've got deep pockets. And if we can convince them to spend their money, instead of drilling holes in the ground out here in the Okuma, but spend their money and redirect into research and development into new forms of energy, they potentially have the ability that even world governments don't have to find solutions. We've just got to shift them there fast. I think their strategy is, well, we're in the oil business and we're just going to keep going until we drain the last drop, and then we'll switch. But by that stage it's going to be too late. We need to push them a lot quicker than they're prepared to move. So at this point, I'd like to just hand over the baton to Simon, who's going to talk about that strategy on an international scale and world